Okay, people, let's get this clear. Once again, if you get shot with that, or that, or this, and perhaps even this, without prompt medical attention, you are probably not going to survive. Likewise, if you get bit by that, or perhaps even that, untreated, you're probably going to die. Perhaps not with that, but just for the sake of illustration. Dead is dead. I'm not really interested in answering any more, who's the most toxic or venomous snake? Look it the heck up if you want to find out. The answer's pretty much the same. I'm tired of wasting my time, dealing with silly questions that really don't matter. The most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. It doesn't matter about all the other things. If you don't get treated promptly, you could die. And in some cases, that likelihood is more than the other. So let's stop with the pissing match on my snake is more toxic than your snake. It really doesn't matter. Every snake bite is a totally different, significant medical event that changes from bite to bite, person to person, region to region, all because the venom compositions are all slightly different. Case closed. If you put a comment on my site, make it a good question and make it so I can understand it. Especially if you come from a country that English is the primary language taught in school. For instance, the UK, the United States, Australia. Take a moment, spell check your words, learn something. I'm not, teasing or being sarcastic for any other reason other than, you need to get your act together. You're not going to go very far in life if you cannot string a bunch of words together in a coherent manner. Many people ask me time and time again, what do I need to do for an education to become a herpetologist? The number one thing that you need to be certain of, no matter what you do in life, is that you read and write whatever your native language is in a clear and concise manner. Period. You can't really get into graduate school. You might make it through college. You would certainly make it through a 2-year college. But you would not make it into a graduate program or beyond unless you can clearly write. Period. I don't care, and it really, doesn't matter in some cases if you're good at math or not. But the bottom line is you need to understand and clearly write whatever language that your country's primary language is. That's it, the bottom line. So if you come to my site, you ask me a question, and it's poorly worded or misspelled, and I tease you, it's not because I'm being a dickhead. I could just ignore the question and move on and save lots of time. But I take just a few minutes and I taunt you a bit. That is in the effort to maybe cajole you into spending some time improving your spelling or your penmanship or writing skills. Nothing more. Just better yourself. That's all it is. So in the future, if it's not in a clear and concise manner, and I find out that you're from an English-speaking country that I aforementioned, I will either ignore it or I will taunt you. Get it right. Spend some time learning. Because if you're not willing to learn the basics like proper reading and writing, you can't possibly have enough fortitude to move on to the more difficult technical topics of herpetology. Okay? I'm not doing it to bust anybody's ass. If you're from one of those countries, you should be able to read and write in a respectable manner. Okay? Matter of fact, most of my fans that don't speak English as a primary language write far better sentences than most of you that do. That's really, really sad. Okay. I'm not fluent in any other languages. You know, I pretty much lost all those skills because I don't use them all that much. But that's one thing the Europeans definitely have over us is their language skills. And it's not even their, primary language they're good enough with, but they're good enough with other languages. They can read, write, and speak. So Americans, no excuse. Absolutely no excuse. If you don't have the drive to learn your own native language, don't bother me with ridiculous questions. Especially ones that are poorly worded and misspelled. I just don't have the time for it. And if you have a problem with that, well, that's too bad. Okay. End of that topic. Number 3. I try very hard not to use all sorts of vulgar language on the page or certainly in my videos, because I have lots of families that watch these. Yes, I might throw some innuendo out and some other comments, but just like the cartoons of my youth, they weren't made for kids. There's a lot of good juicy stuff in there that went over the kids' heads. Kids are a lot smarter these days. However, I'll still continue with the innuendo, but I'll try not to be blatantly obvious with some of my undertones. So, please try to not use really, really vulgar words when you're replying, even if it's in excitement. I know sometimes I can do that too. Try to avoid it. I try to make this a site for everybody to learn, including young kids, and a lot of families and parents, put a certain amount of faith in me. I've gotten an awful lot of emails from mothers and fathers. Hey, we watch your videos every week with the kids enjoy them, etc., etc. That's some of the nicest compliments that I get. And I would like to continue fostering something that parents and kids can do together. You know, especially when kids are young, because when they get to teenagers, you know, they start to assume a life of their own and have little time for their parents. So, whether you're commenting or you're doing something else on one of my sites, please try to keep it clean. You know, also, I find that people that use a lot of vulgarities, especially when they're pissed at someone, usually aren't terribly intelligent people. Sorry, it's the truth. That's the way it goes. If you can't string a sentence together and logically express your anger or your inability to accept something that I said, you don't have to use vulgarities to describe it. It really is not necessary at all. You know, if you can't do it in proper terms, forget it. You won't ever see it because I'll delete it. You know, if you do it properly with no vulgarities, I will allow it to be seen by anyone who's on the channel. You know, I do try to run a relatively clean ship. Occasionally even I blurt it out. You know, I've told everyone right along, I am not perfect. I'm certainly trying my best to make as few mistakes as I can. Period. Case closed. Next. As you can see here, there's not very many ums and ahs and and eh. You know why? Because I'm not distracted by having a very venomous snake out and free or able to bite or strike me. A good portion of my brain is watching that animal for body language. I'm also trying to think what I'm supposed to be saying, and hopefully it's something intelligent. Also, I'm trying to keep the picture framed so you don't miss anything interesting that happens. Subsequently, if I ooh or I ah, I stutter, I, just hang on words, excuse me, I'm sorry. What I'm doing is rather difficult and rather dangerous. And I'm doing it for your entertainment. If that's a problem, don't bother watching either. It's as simple as that. I'm a master instructor in the Air Force. I spent a number of years as an instructor in front of a classroom. I certainly know how to phrase things and get ideas across, but I've never had the opportunity to do such a thing with a venomous snake literally inches from my hands. Literally, I am in the strike zone every time I do a close-up. So, if my brain doesn't function perfectly and I don't spit out a sentence without a pause or a two or an or an ah, it's simply because I am trying to survive the ordeal. And it's as simple as my major focus is my safety and the safety of the animal and not how things come out of my mouth. Period. Case closed. Enough of my rant. I have lots of things to take care of. I've got some new babies to deal with. Subsequently, I will sign off for now. Thank you very much for your attention. Ciao.